I wasn't homeless for one day.
This was an unforgettable experience.
And I never thought that I would have to live something like that.
We are La Family Calderon.
So what we're about to do is we're going to perform a social experiment with my son. There is a lot of high-class people in this area, and what we want to do is we want to measure their willingness to help others. Okay, so we're going to talk about that I am somebody that's being displaced. Basically, the guerrilla groups steal the land from people, and I am one of those victims. And I'm now in the city trying to make a way. And we're going to do this today. Okay, so stay tuned.
For this experience, we started at home preparing their clothing, their shoes, their hair. For me, it was amazing. I was very expecting your reaction and Benji's reaction. I didn't know how it was going to happen, and I feel proud of him. Of our son, because he did a great job. He was standing at his side, listening, looking at the people, and I am thankful for that.
We're going to wait and see if somebody is willing to help us. What went through my mind when we first started doing this social experiment was the thought of living what other people live in this kind of situation. And we, as missionaries, as evangelists, we go to the parks and we go to the streets to talk to people in that situation. And to us, putting ourselves in their shoes, it helps us understand from a different perspective what they're going through. Caballero, una preguntita. Mi nombre es Héctor, estamos desplazados, estamos aquí tratando de buscar una ayuda, con qué comer, ve a mi hijo. ¿Será que tú me puedes ayudar con algo?
Yo no tengo nada.
Nada.
No.
Bueno, gracias. When I started with my son, and he was very apprehensive about doing this, and I was trying to motivate him that we needed to do this so that we can show the state of human beings, you know. And when I started getting rejected, it's a feeling that you can only explain when you are in that situation. You know, rejection, you talk about rejection, you talk about people ignoring you, but when you are in that situation, it's different. You're looking at things and you're feeling things that you don't want to feel. And when you see people going by as if you are invisible to them, obviously, you know, everybody's got their own concerns. But feeling what you feel at a situation like that is something that is unspeakable. Señora, buenas tardes. ¿Cómo está? Mi nombre es Héctor. Estamos desplazados, necesitamos una ayudita, algo para comer. ¿Nos podría ayudar? ¿Cómo? Ahora no. Bueno, gracias. As time went by and we started doing this, obviously the first couple of people don't get too much of a reaction. And then I get one or two that will give me a coin. And the coin here in Colombia is not even 20 cents, 5 cents, 2 cents. That's what it amounts to. And I started to think, you know, what can people do with that? How do people live on that? And it's a strange situation because now you understand what these people are going through. We don't know what people's situations, we don't know what they're going through, why they're in the way they are, and that's the reason why we need to intersect these individuals that are in the street. And you know, you can look at them and see for yourself. Caballero, ¿cómo está? Mi nombre es Héctor. No, bueno. Caballero, ¿cómo está? Mi nombre es Héctor. Estamos buscando una ayuda. I don't know what's worse, if the people that ignore you completely or the people that look at you bad. I think if you're thinking about this way, is that if people ignore you completely, you don't exist. But if they look at you wrong, they're making that assertion that
A judgment.
yeah, they make that assertion that you are there at least.
Yo me sentía como triste porque la gente no ayuda, no hace nada.
Benji was uncomfortable, and I will say that once I started talking to him and telling him that we needed to measure a little bit of how people are, and that this will help him understand why we do the things that we do. He started understanding. I mean, he knows why we go to the parks and we go to the streets and we talk to people, but when we put ourselves in that side of the story, I think that he understood, and now he can appreciate a little more his life and what he has. At first, they look at you and they don't believe too much what's going on, but there are some people that look at us a second time and they saw my son, and I think they were moved by that. And then I started seeing how they were asking questions. Where are you from? What are you doing here? How long you been here? And this is where you understand that there are some people that do feel the need to help, because that's God acting through them. And they just want to make sure that they're doing the right thing. One of my questions to them was, how do you know who to help?
Muchas gracias por... Él se llama Benjamin. Juanita, muchas gracias. No, te los puedes quedar. Estamos haciendo un experimento social. ¿Ok? Les agradezco mucho por su corazón, de verdad. Y es mucho más de lo que hemos visto en esta media hora que llevamos acá pidiendo. Y de verdad que no muchas personas. Pero la pregunta que yo tengo para ustedes es, ¿cómo saben cuándo dar? ¿Cómo saben cuándo ayudar? Porque hay mucha gente en esta ciudad que pide dinero, ¿cierto? Entonces, ¿cómo saben ustedes cómo dar, cómo ayudar, cuándo ayudar?
Yo creo que hay dos cosas. Primero, que la persona esté consciente de sí misma.
Sí.
Bajo el efecto de sustancias y demás.
De sustancias.
Lo otro es, por ejemplo, con los niños.
Ajá.
Por eso le pregunté al niño el nombre,
Ajá.
porque ya siento como inseguridad que los niños dormidos o así, me
Ah.
dan seguridad.
Sí.
Entonces, pues como vi al niño tranquilo y eso, con mayor razón me sentí pues tranquila.
No, de verdad, muchas gracias. Esto nos ayuda muchísimo para lo que estamos haciendo. Bueno, que estén muy bien. Dios los bendiga. Bueno, chao.
I decided, I was looking around because there wasn't that many people coming by, and I told Benji, I said, let's go to this group of people that were sitting on this table. And I thought, these are older men. They must understand a situation such as this, especially if I show them my son. They're not walking by, so I'm gonna be able to grab their full attention. And when I got there, I was very surprised.
¿No tienen nada? Sí, de pronto. A ver, Benjamin, ven. Este es mi hijo. Él viene conmigo. Bueno, muchas gracias. Dios te bendiga.
They didn't care. Only one reached out to his pocket and took out a couple of coins, and it must have been maybe 15 cents.
Quiero contarles que nosotros estamos haciendo un experimento social y estamos probando o tratando de medir cómo las personas están tratando de ayudar a otras personas que lo necesitan. ¿Sí me entiendes? Entonces, te agradezco mucho, caballero.
And then he started saying, oh, well, good job, God bless you. I was even surprised by that response. And I said, I will admit that I was being a little sarcastic, And I said, well, this social experiment is to measure people's hearts. And there is a lot of people that don't want to help. Thank you very much for your help. and I gave the money back to this other guy, and I left.
Amigo, ¿cómo estás? ¿Bien o no?
I was very surprised with the guy that was working in the streets, because I was expecting a different response from him. I was expecting him to say to me, hey, get to work. If you see me working and I'm in the same situation, I think you can do it too. And he didn't do that.
Nada, no me puede ayudar. Nada. Diga, a ver, hermano. ¿Me pongo a trabajar con usted? ¿Me va a dar trabajo?
He gave me a different response, and of course, I was very humbled by that. But then I decided to ask him. I had a question in mind, and I was going to ask him, because there's a lot of people in a situation like that that they will resort to stealing. Mm-hmm. And I said, so what if I was to steal your property, or the things that you want me to help you sell to make some money? And he says, it's your decision if you want to do that or not. I do my job. I will hope that you will do the same. And that was amazing.
Those situations for me those hearts makes me cry.
I will say that it brings confirmation to the work that we're doing. We always felt that we needed to help people who are in the streets, because we don't know what situations they're going through. We don't know why they got into drugs or alcoholism, or even women in prostitution.
Estamos buscando una ayuda, estamos desplazados. Nada. Ni una monedita, hombre. Caballero, estamos haciendo una colecta para poder conseguir algo para la comida y dormir esta noche.
¿Tu hijo?
Sí, claro. Mi hijo.
¿De dónde viene?
No, nosotros estamos desplazados, hermano. Sí.
Sí, una vez desplazado.
¿También? ¿De qué parte?
Años.
Sí.
Del norte del valle.
Del norte del valle, ¿ah? Ah, bueno, ¿cómo te llamas?
Jonathan.
Jonathan, yo me llamo. Mi hijo se llama Benji. Jonathan, muchas gracias, hermano.
Le entrego por el medio.
No, muchas gracias.
¿Por qué?
Estamos haciendo un experimento social. Y de las muchas personas que estamos mirando a ver, medir cómo está el corazón de la gente en esta ciudad.
And I believe now that living what we lived and doing the things that we did to measure people's hearts, it kind of drives us. It drives us farther into the future to do more, to try to do more, but now with a purpose.
Es importante de que los niños deben tener una familia en vez de estar en la calle y sean ahí pobres y no tienen nada.
And when I see my husband guiding my son, and seeing Benji looking at his father, and at the end Benji was asking, why a lot of people don't help, Mom? And I had the opportunity to explain him what is happening in the world.
Doing this experiment and actually making the decision to do it, it helps us understand, or at least look for an answer, look for guidance. This will help us look for guidance and also test our hearts, where we are in the work that we're doing and how to continue moving forward. I think this is a good way to get guidance from the Lord.
Okay, so today's experiment was very, very hard, I will say, because there is a lot of people that are not willing to help others. And one of the questions that we have for them was, how do you know, for the ones that helped, how do you know who to help? Because there's a lot of people in drug addiction and alcohol, and basically people judge, and they see the appearance, and they want to make sure that you're not doing drugs, that you're not doing alcohol. They want to see that the situation is real for whatever or however they come out, especially when there is a kid involved, like my son. They were more willing to help. A lot more people turned their back on me because I was by myself, and they're not willing to help. So, in a good sense, I think the little bit of people will make the difference.
I remember in 2016, we were having such a hard time. We were having a financial crisis. We thought that the decisions we made were wrong in so many levels, because I had a job the year before in a company where I was making pretty good money. And I made the decision to go in business with this other guy from a church that we used to go to. And then we had some businesses here in Colombia. We used to have some clothing stores. And my wife was tired of working those stores, and she was wanting me to make the decision to close them or sell them or whatever the case might be. Well, the Lord also called us in 2015 to work for Him. We only walked with the Lord for about a year and a half, and He's given us this assignment. And we decided to listen to it. So in the midst of all that, made the decision to close the stores in Colombia and rely on the job that I had open, or the business that I had open with this guy. And then a month later, he says, I don't want to be your partner anymore. And we were left empty-handed in a really bad situation. So through all this, in 2016, we were having this financial crisis. On top of that, we're still managing to live together with my wife in the sense of getting used to each other, because we only been together for about a couple of years. And I was diagnosed with PTSD, very hard. It was very bad. I have the delusion. I was delusion of persecution and being afraid all the time. I was looking around who was following me. In the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, 4 tours, we lived some pretty bad things. In one of our deployments, we were getting attacked every day. We hardly slept. Because the attacks happened during the middle of the night. So we were getting bombed left and right, and we used to just get up and pretty much sleep in a bunker for a couple hours and then come to bed by the time who was gonna sleep then, So I was diagnosed with PTSD. I had really bad headaches, insomnia. There was a lot of things that was wrong with me. And then to sum it up, my wife and I weren't getting along. Partly because I have all these issues. I used to yell at, very aggressive. My character was very bad, and it was just bad, And then we had this problem at the house one day, and it was like I blew up. I couldn't take it anymore. I told my wife, I said, well, you don't want me here. I'm leaving. I'm done. Stay with the house, keep the money, do whatever. And I decided to take a walk. But it was a long walk. I wasn't planning on coming back. And I think there's a lot of veterans out there that can relate to this because of all these situations, and mostly because of financial issues, they decide to give up on themselves. And that's what happened to me. Even though I had a family, I had a house, and I had my retirement, I didn't want to be there anymore. I wanted to give up on my life, on my life, on my wife, my son, and I didn't want to be there. My wife used to be very aggressive as well. She wasn't giving in to any of my demands in a way, because I used to say this is how it's going to be. And she used to go against my desires or the things that I was saying, So I took a small backpack and a jacket, because it was during the winter that this happened. And I decided to take a walk, and it was a very long walk. And the whole time I used to think, I'm not coming back. I'm just gonna live in the streets. I'm just gonna walk as far as I can, and she's never going to find out about me anymore. And that's what was going through my mind. Headaches, frustration, lack of forgiveness, bitterness, all these things were going through my mind. And then walking through the night, because this happened like around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I started walking, and I walked 4 hours. I got really tired, and I said to myself, you know, I'm going to sleep somewhere. And I went to sleep on the side of the road. Very cold, it was dark. And then for a couple hours later, I went to keep on walking. And finally, after 8-9 hours, I reached a small town where there was a gas station. I was very thirsty. And I sat there on the sidewalk thinking to myself, what am I doing here? You know, it was like the Lord telling me that I needed to come back, to go back to my home. The Lord telling me or giving me that thought or that feeling that what I was doing was wrong. And I was just sitting there drinking the water, thinking to myself, what am I doing here? And next thing you know, I saw a police officer driving by, and he saw me. And he says, hey, what's going on? I was like, nothing. He says, tell me what happened? Why are you out here? Because it was almost 2-3 o'clock in the morning. And he said, what happened to you? I mean, he's probably from the area. He never seen somebody like that, because I wasn't in raggedy clothes or anything like that. It was just regular clothes, and I was sitting on the side road. There was nobody around. And I gave him a little bit of my story, and he says, come on, it's time for you to go home. And he took me home. I told him where I lived. And when he took me home, he saw the house that I was that I was living in, and he's like, wait a minute, I gotta make sure that I'm leaving you where you really live. And it took him by surprise, because he came to find out that the story I was telling him was true. You know, I was in this nice neighborhood, big house, front yard. I mean, he was like, what? Do you really live here? And I said, yes. And he's like, wait here in the car. And he left me in the car, in the back seat. You know you can't get out. And he went and knocked on the door, and my wife rapidly answered the door. And he told her that I was in the car, and she almost started crying. And she was very grateful to this police officer. And she said, yes, that is my husband. And I was praying for him to return home. And so he went and opened the door, and I went inside the house, and he looked at us, and he says, are you guys going to be okay? And we say, yes, thank you. And he left. But I guess this whole testimony, this whole story is just to tell you that if you have family who are veterans, if you have family who are in situations like that, this is what's going on. The enemy gets a hold of us. He will get a hold of you. If you're going through this situation, he will get a hold of you. And he will do the things that he is used to doing ever since this whole war started. And it's to destroy you. And it's to be able to steal everything from you and to kill everything that is in your life. And he's trying to kill every hope that is in you, because that's what he does. He kills hope. He kills our reason for us to be here. So I understand that you're going through a hard time, and I understand that maybe you have family and friends who are going through this whole situation, but there is hope, and that is Jesus Christ. He's the one that healed me. I don't suffer from PTSD anymore. I don't suffer from any headaches, insomnia. I sleep like a baby now. He healed me from my back, my broken back, and he did a lot of things in my life. Not only that, not only did he heal me physically, but spiritually, because I don't yell anymore. At least I hope that I don't. And I live a life where it's full of purpose. And remember, I was telling you, the Lord called us the year before to do work for him. And we go through a process. And people that are going through this understand that the process sometimes is short and sometimes it's long. And for us, it was a process, and we understood that God was trying to do something with us. And if I would have continued doing the things that I was doing, I would never be here doing the things that I'm doing today, because that's the Lord working through me. And remember, this is a very specific message, We can do all things through Christ who gives us the strength, and He will heal you if you ask Him to. There's got to be a purpose for your life. Don't give up.
It wasn't back in 2016, and now I can say that I really experienced God's healing. It was a very sad day because I saw my husband leaving us. I saw him in the way that I didn't know him before. And I remember looking through the window, seeing him walking all the way down the street. And I was looking at heaven and I kneeling down next to my bed. And I said, Lord, I'm going to pray until you bring him back. I won't stop praying until you answer my prayer. And it was between 8 or 9 hours until he went back home. He was back home. And when I see people in the streets, I always ask myself, what was their wrong decision? What was happening in their lives? Because I know that the devil fills our heads with lies, with insecurities. And now when I see my husband and when I see his healing, I know that everything is possible to God, everything. And we wanted to share this because it is a testimony from sickness to healing, spiritual healing, body healing, and a restoration of a family. If you ask me if it was easy, no, it wasn't easy. But I think that we need to cross to live these kind of situations to grow up. Spiritual growing in a relationship to get better, because we can love, I love him more, he loves me more because of these kind of situations. We learn a lot from every day, every situation. We learn a lot from every disagreement, every day, every situation. Help us a lot to grow up in our lives. Here we are at Freedom Park, and this is called Operation Soul Rescue. This is a great social work that we are doing in the streets. It's the church in the streets, and we are doing this every other week.
La palabra de Dios dice que la lluvia limpia la tierra. Y eso es precisamente lo que hace. Mire que está limpiando todo el polvo, toda la suciedad que hay aquí. Pero yo quiero decirles que más que limpiar la tierra, Dios quiere limpiar los corazones. Él quiere limpiar tus corazones. Porque nosotros tenemos algo que hacer y es perdonar y arrepentirnos.
We call this also an invitation to the banquet. As you know, there was a parable that Jesus was talking about. He says, you know, let's do a banquet. Let's bring the people I invited. He tells his servants to go bring him, and they say, no, we can't because of this, because of that. And then he says, go and bring the people in the streets.
Y yo te pido, Señor, por cada una de las personas en este lugar, que puedan escuchar tu voz, no mi voz, sino tu voz. Que cada uno de ellos, Señor, pueda sentir un ardor en su corazón, en cada uno de sus corazones. para que puedan escuchar quién eres tú, Señor. Tú eres el Padre amado que nunca los ha dejado. Tú eres el Padre amado que siempre los ha protegido a pesar de su no conocimiento. Tú siempre has estado ahí. Escucha esto el día de hoy. Dios siempre ha estado rodeando tu vida.
And that's what we're doing. We're bringing these people together in this park where there's a lot of situations.
Y no importa qué necesidad tengas, no importa qué necesidad tú estés buscando el día de hoy, Él quiere bendecirte, Él quiere amarte, Él quiere darte todo lo que tú necesitas. Pero lo único que Él quiere es tu corazón, tu corazón. Él quiere tu corazón el día de hoy.
Drug addiction, alcoholism, prostitution. I mean, just recently, 3 days ago, a guy was killed by gun, gunfire. And that's the kind of situations that they lived in this area. And we are there doing this type of work.
Qué bueno ver algunas caras familiares en este lugar. Pero el Señor tiene algo preparado para ustedes. Nosotros a esto le llamamos un banquete. No se ve como mucho, ¿cierto? Ese banquete no se ve como mucho, pero es lo que significa, ¿sí? Esto que está aquí es una mesa servida. Pongan atención, miren lo que yo les estoy mostrando acá. Esta mesa que está aquí es una mesa servida, ¿cierto? Nosotros le llamamos a esto el banquete. ¿El banquete por qué? Porque Dios te está invitando al banquete el día de hoy. De todos mis pecados, yo te pido que encuentres en tu corazón perdonarme. Por favor, Señor, escribe mi nombre en el libro de la vida el día de hoy y nunca lo borres de allí. Yo te doy gracias por el sacrificio que hiciste por mí.
The results are amazing. Things that are happening in this park is just amazing. Seeing people's reaction, seeing people be convicted of sin. They touch their hearts with their hands and they cry out to God for forgiveness and repentance.
Este ministerio evangelístico se llama Obras para la Gloria de Dios. Amén.
Muy especial para su vida. Llena su corazón, Señor, y que Él pueda en esta tierra cumplir ese propósito por el cual fue creado, Señor. ¿Qué te motiva a ti a venir cada sábado a hacer este evangelismo en las calles? ¿Por qué tú vienes sabiendo que acá se ve robo, prostitución, drogas? ¿Qué te motiva a ti a venir a dar del amor de Dios?
Me motiva el simple hecho de pensar y de ver que si yo fui una de las personas que estuve sin Dios en mi corazón, que tuve un vacío en mi corazón, que estuve en una tristeza profunda, en donde lo que el mundo me ofrecía me llevaba a ahogarme en esas tristezas y lo único que quería era hacer daño conmigo misma y por ahí derecho me llevaba a mi familia detrás en medio de tantos problemas. Entonces son tantas personas que en este momento necesitan de esa palabra de Dios, de ese amor, de esa misericordia que Dios nos da para Él conocer, para que cada uno conozca ese amor que Él tiene para nosotros. Entonces es gratificante poder venir acá, poder orar por cada una de esas personas que se nos acercan y nos piden con tanta humildad que oremos por cada una de sus peticiones. Entonces es una motivación, y también aparte de eso me lleva como a ser un ejemplo para mis hijos también, porque yo soy madre cabeza de hogar, y la Fundación Obras para la Gloria de Dios nos ha llevado a caminar como en pro de la ayuda a todas las mamás que están también allí y las personas que más lo necesitan. Entonces eso es para ayudar a nuestros propios hijos, que también son como esa luz para esta vida que está tan triste.
This is a very special time because a lot of people are coming to get united to the ministry, and a lot of us are going to serve others. And we call this the body of Christ, because we are working together for Him. We are serving together for Him and to help others. And I enjoy it, really, really. I really like it.
Saber por qué quieres servir, por qué vienes acá.
El amor, solo el amor al Padre y a todas las personas que nada más hablo por los que oraba.
Sí.
Quería abrazarlos y voy a ver el dolor en ellos.
This is always overwhelming to come here and see so many people in need. I mean, you look around and they're just without hope, you know? They're relying on, I mean, just take a look at that guy, for example, you know, sitting over there. He gave up on life, you know? He's the kind of people that we look at and we have to say, we got to do something. And that's the reason why we come here, you know, because time is of the essence and we don't want to waste any more time. Now we're going to risk it. We're going to see how much we know about each other. What's my favorite color?
Blue. It is blue. Tell me the exact day when we met.
It was a Monday, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. On the 28th of January, 2013. What else? How tall am I?
In inches?
Yes. They want to know in inches.
5'6".
You are 5'6".
I'm 5'2".
5'2"?
Yeah.
I'm 5'11".
Oh,
5'11".
okay.
Yes.
What is the next country I want to visit?
Australia. She's been bugging me about that. What is my favorite thing to do?
Stay at home. Sí.
Yes.
Nadie lo saca de la casa. Y no sé. This is how we are. If you want to know more about us, leave a comment.
And subscribe. Thank you for being part of this journey with us. We love you.